So,
Yeah.
Kathy, my first question is, how have you been? And give me the most honest, real, raw answer
Ooh,
you can. Don't sugarcoat. Tell me how you've been.
yeah. How have I been? I think that it's been a while since I've actually checked in with myself.
Oh,
Yeah, I've kind of been like so focused and driven that um I haven't really checked in with myself. But I will say that I know that I wake up excited. I wake
mm.
up curious. So I think that's how I've been curious.
How do you go to sleep?
Oh, like a baby.
That no, that sounds to me like a really good sign. If you, I mean, I think going to sleep like a baby is like a great sign
I
for inner
know.
peace. Because like
Yeah.
that's like when I'm going through my worst times, it's very hard for me to sleep, and when I'm going through my best times, it's like I'm out.
Easy. Right. Exactly.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like you've been good overall.
Yeah. I've been good overall for sure. Yeah.
It sounds like you've been very focused, which can be quite distracting. I mean,
Yes.
what I mean by that is like sometimes when we're very, very focused on our job and our career, we're distracted from our other problems.
Right. 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 Yeah. I think that those things don't feel that big of a problem because I'm so hyper focused on, you know, doing my business, but also I think fixing the problem, right? Fixing whatever the problem might be. But I also think that in the beginning of this transition in my career, I know that it was very tough in so many different aspects that I kind of already went through that like pain and having to find faith. And so now I feel like I get it. Like I understand. I understand myself. I understand what I'm capable of. And I think it's more of an understanding. So there's peace to that.
What do you understand now that you didn't understand before when you were 21, 22, 23?
23, uh well, okay, so at 23 I thought I knew everything.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same.
So I didn't know everything. So to say
Yeah.
what do I understand now? I actually understand now. And I grew up pretty quickly. Like I matured very quickly. Like I bought my first property at 23. I was very
Wow.
independent at a really young age. Yeah. And I've always kind of been, very ambitious and I've always focused on that. But at 23, I used it to mask a lot of things, insecurity, ego, all of that, because I wanted to prove something. Now I'm doing it just because I love it. I think that's the difference. So now I have an understanding. I know myself now.
What did you want to prove?
Maybe prove to my family, that I can make it, that I'm, not the statistic that, they thought I would be. I come from a very rough background.
Mm.
And my mom had me really young as well. And so I think it was just that ego of like proving, like, I'm not gonna fail, I'm not gonna be what you guys think I'm going to be, or what everyone, in our family has been. So it was more of that.
It sounds
Yeah.
like they expected you to be a failure.
Yeah, they did.
Did they say that
Yeah.
out loud?
There were times that, yeah, those things were said and they were conversations. Yeah, for sure.
Are you comfortable
You
talking
know.
about that?
Oh, 100%.
So who when you
Yeah,
say they, are you
100%.
when you say they, who do you mean your parents?
Yes. Yeah. My father mostly.
And you're comfortable
Mhm.
talking about this because you sound a little like unco you're good with
A
this?
100%. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Obviously there's times where it's a podcast, so whatever I share, right?
Uh,
But there are things that are also you don't want to you fix relationships with people and you
yeah,
don't,
yeah.
you kind of don't, you try not to revisit the past, but it is what it is. But yeah, it mostly came from his side where there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of doubt in who I would become and how I would become, etc.
Yeah, and but before we move forward, just keep in mind that I can always delete anything out of the podcast if if
Okay.
after the podcast you want me to like delete a part, I can always delete. So,
Okay.
what did he say? What was the type of stuff he said?
I think understanding now, projection is such a big thing.
Yeah.
And so he projected a lot. He felt like a failure, and so he
Mm.
would always say like, you're my child and you're like me, and so you can't be any different. And I know who I am, and I know that I've failed, and I'm a menace. And he would put himself down a lot, but he would also project that and say that because I was his child, I would also be the same way. And that started at a really young age. There was also a lot of abuse in the home. It wasn't just verbal, there was a lot of physical abuse in the home. So there were a lot of things that happened growing up. There was a lot of instability. We moved around a lot. My mother always did try to leave, but she was always too scared. So those things were real. And so it put me since a very young age to doubt myself a lot. It did bring a lot of uncertainty and fear. It implemented fear in so many ways, but it also kind of made me a protector to my mom and a provider, which I think that's where like the ambition and then the ego and the insecurity kind of clashed in my 20s.
Are your mom and dad still together?
They are not. No, my mother left him when I was 12 years old.
It sounds like that was the right move for her.
Yeah, yeah, it was. And I remember how it all happened because she came into my room. We were having a conversation about something that, they had fought about. And she, was venting. My mom didn't have a lot of friends,
Mm.
so being that she had me so young and, I'm her daughter, I was her friend. And she shared something with me, and I still remember this till this day. I looked at her, I'm like, why are you with him? And she's like, what? I was already so mature at 12, and I didn't even understand what I was saying, but I knew that it was wrong. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you with him? And I remember a week later, I mean, she had all our things packed. She found a place, and she never turned back. I think that was when she realized, like, I'm holding on to something that's not even healthy for my daughter. So
Do you keep in touch with your father?
we still speak. Yeah, we do still speak.
So to me, there's a word that comes to mind. He sounds like an absolute narcissist to me.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Um, you know, I think that both of my parents had their flaws and their ways. My mom obviously was the victim in that situation in a lot of ways. But there were things that also kept her there, and I think that they each had their form of narcissism.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also think that now people take narcissism so lightly. Like they call everyone a narcissist,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But he was. My grandmother, I had a very she passed away, God rest her soul. I had a very good relationship with her, but they did not have a very good relationship, my father and his mother. So she would reward him when it called for attention. But when she really needed to reward him, when he was doing things that were actually right, it wasn't a big deal. So as long as it made her look, feel good, accomplished as a mother, as a this, as that's when she would reward him. And I think that she did. She raised him to be a narcissist, right? Because then you think that the world revolves around you and you're not empathetic and you know um so he had a lot of that for sure.
Yeah. A parent who only rewards a child when it makes them look good is like the top definition of a narcissist.
Right.
Like, and it's sad because that's usually how it works. Like the cycle continues, but it looks like to me like you broke the cycle.
Yeah, but it took a lot. It took a lot. It took a lot of sitting with myself,
Mm.
you know. You start to realize people say that they know themselves, but they don't really sit with themselves. And sitting with yourself and putting the mirror in your own face and looking at your flaws and understanding them. I mean, the aftermath is so beautiful,
Yeah.
right? And it allows you to kind of flow with things. But in that moment when you're in it, you're kind of like, oof, like this is how I react, or this is how I talk, or this is how I think. And why do I accept those things? And you enter into it with like a victim mindset, but then you kind of like start like a lot of like self-blame too. It's like a process. But I worked on it a lot to break it. Yeah.
Yeah, and change is not easy. Change generally takes years, It's very, very difficult to change the way that we act and especially the way that we think. And one thing that people really, really have wrong about narcissists is a lot of people think that they have these really, really high self-esteems. Narcissists are
They
actually
don't.
very insecure. They're very
No.
insecure. They act as if they have very high self-esteem out loud, but deep down, they're very insecure people.
Broken completely. Yep. Yep. And I didn't understand that. Obviously, when I was younger, it wasn't until I started to study it. But I also started to really study it. It wasn't because of my parents. I looked at myself and I felt like I was a narcissist.
Mm,
And I always ask that question. Because I did spend a lot of years in therapy. My parents tried
mm.
to do therapy for whatever reason. And so I continued with the same therapist since I was 3 years old. I revisited him
3,
again.
wow.
Yeah, I started at 3 because there was a lot of things going on in the home. And so the school wanted me to also be involved in therapy because of whatever was going on. Um, and so I remember I revisited him again in my, in my teens, and I stuck with him for a while. But I say that to say I always ask that question of, can a narcissist change? Like, once they realize that they're a narcissist, can that go away? Um, and that I don't know. I mean, I feel like I've changed. For a long time, I thought I was a narcissist. I didn't empathize. I didn't have, I didn't have emotions for other people. But then I also realized that I was also just trying to protect myself, and I was very insecure, you
Mm.
know, and I masked it with so many things. But like I said, once I put that mirror up, it was, I wanted to change. I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah, it sounds to me like when you were a very young child, you already were thinking like a 30-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now I'm 33 and I feel like I'm 50 sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah, so
yeah,
how did you I'm curious, like, so you told me the questions that you asked yourself, am I a narcissist? How do I change?
yeah.
Can a narcissist change? I'm curious, like, what was the process of changing like? Can you like walk us through that process?
So for me, there were two important times that I could remember. And it wasn't when I bought anything. It wasn't when I bought my home. It wasn't when I got my dream car. It wasn't any of that. That actually fueled my narcissism.
Mm,
For me,
you
the
fed the
first
monster.
Oh, it created a horrible monster, how dare you talk to me like that, like it ruined relationships. I mean, I used to think who I was. How dare you talk to me like that? I am who I am. Look what I have. Look what and you think that that's really what makes you, and it doesn't. But the first time was I dated a guy who was very similar to my father,
Oh.
and I didn't understand it, but unconsciously I was trying to fix something that I thought was broken that only I could fix. And in him, in the guy that I was dating. And that relationship, I mean, it was so terrible. He said so many terrible things, but I felt like I was facing my father from all of the terrible things that my father would say to me as I grew up. Um, and he would put me down a lot. It happened the first time I really wanted to change was after I left. I left the relationship and I really sat with myself. Um, but it was something so odd. I was just so broken and so depressed, really. I hit like a rock bottom.
Hmm. How old were you
And
at this time?
I was 25.
Okay.
I was 25. I hit a rock bottom. I'm sitting in my house. I'm like, I have all of these things. Like, first it's the why me.
Yeah.
And then I started to walk a little bit more into like faith, but spirituality,
Hmm.
right? So like I started to meditate more. I started to sit with myself more. Meditation is really sitting with yourself, right? Like just being still and quiet. I really started to spend a lot more time with myself and like around people that were deeply into spirituality as well. And they kind of shifted me into the um, what would your child like what would the child like you say to you today, like, right? So I would look at myself as a little girl and kind of talk to her, and that was the first time I felt like I need to face this. And it was ugly, because I didn't realize how dark my own soul was and what I was attracting. I was attracting that type of energy because I was giving that type of energy. And so a lot of meditation, a lot of spirituality, just being around a lot of friends, but also journaling a lot, that helped me. And correcting myself, just being true to myself. The second time was at 30. It
Okay.
was 30, 31.
Hmm.
And this happened because of a shift in my career. Where now I'm not behind a desk. Now I'm with the public. Right now I speak to people day in, day out. Um, I need to communicate to run my business, and I need to communicate things well. And I also need to understand people's perspective. And in order to do that, I have to check myself. I have to know how I'm communicating, what I'm communicating. And I think that played a big role. I also found myself, I was doing well. I made a great salary, coming from that to making no money because now I'm a business owner.
Hmm.
Um, I hit a deep plateau, in my life. And I started to kind of see people shift away from me, people that, when I was doing well, that ego again a little bit. Even though at 25, I checked myself, that ego was still there. And, I'm doing well. So let's go here. Let's go out. Let's go have steak. Let's go, And I was still kind of living in that image. And when I didn't have that image anymore, I saw everyone kind of disappear, and it was very tough, and I always felt like I was alone, even though I had my mom and I have brothers and all of that. For some reason, I've always kind of felt alone. So when I noticed everyone kind of dissipate and run away, that's when I sat with myself. Like, I had to ask myself why. Like, what am I doing all of this for? Is it worth it? Is it really for me? Is it really for them? Is it really for my future?
Hmm.
I think that was the second time where I really had to sit with myself. And then also the communication part, going back to that, I still didn't correct how I talk to people. It was still very demanding,
Hmm.
because I felt like I had built this life on my own from such a young age,
Hmm.
through all of my trials and tribulations. And that's not how healthy people communicate. I was communicating from a place of fear. I wanted, to prove that I was the best loan officer to
Hmm.
use. Well, prove it, but how can I if I sound fearful, right? Because I am, because I don't trust myself. And so I think that was the second time where I realized I have a lot of insecurity. We got to like figure this out.
Were you controlling?
Yes, I was very controlling. I controlled everything from my job, and I was a perfectionist. From my job to my relationships to my friendships, I mean everything.
Hmm.
I controlled everything. And I think I learned that from my dad too. I used finances to control it, you
Well,
know.
what I would imagine is when you were a child, you felt out of control, and that your entire life you probably felt out of control, so that kind of made you, crave control.
Yep. And also, yeah, crave it. And um also I think the one of the biggest reasons, at least that I self-reflected on, as to why I wanted to be so controlling, was because um I was scared to go back. I was scared to be abused again. I
Yeah,
was scared
totally.
to, right? So I would control the situation so that I felt safe.
Hmm.
It was really more safety than anything, I think, because I never felt safe. Like I said, I was abused a lot. So I could have just been sleeping and my dad would find a reason,
Really?
um, yeah, it was bad. It was very bad. I didn't realize how bad it was until an adult. And then I was sharing, stories with my mom. And even my mom recalls times where, I mean, it was very dark. He just wasn't a happy person. And then he had a switch. He could come in and be very happy, and then the smallest thing could trigger him. And
Oh, he
you
definitely
know
had a mental illness,
um
definitely.
yeah, I think later on in life he did find out. He did not share it with us.
Uh-huh.
We had like a little bit of a conversation, and he said he started to see a therapist because of the woman that he was dating at the time. I love her. Her name is Cathy also. And she pushed him back into therapy. And she stayed with him for a long time. She also, ended
God
up
bless her.
departing from the relationship. Yeah, that's what I said. She was with him for a long time. And it's crazy the damage that he does, because although he didn't do the same type of things to her that he did to my mother and I, there were a lot of traumas with her too. I mean, I'm not saying that she had a walk in the park. She went through a lot, but she also still suffers from some of those things that he did in that relationship. She still finds herself broken and insecure, and and I'm sure she has her own things, but that relationship added to that. So
I would guess narcissistic personality disorder.
$1,000,000%.
Have you
Yeah,
ever read
maybe
the
even
10?
bipolar too.
Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
ever read the 10 traits of narcissistic personality disorder? Do you know the 10 traits?
I don't know the 10 traits off of the top of my hand. I know not having empathy is one of them, right?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna really, really quickly go through it because I think it's really
Yeah, let's do
important.
it.
10 traits of narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, this is really, really important. It's also for the for the people listening. Okay, number one, and I want you to count like how many of these apply to your father.
All
Okay.
right, let's do it.
Number one, grandiose sense of self-importance. Number two, preoccupation with fantasies.
Mm.
Three, need for excessive admiration.
Oh,
Four, sense of entitlement. Five, interpersonally exploitative behavior, like taking advantage of others. Number
oh my.
six, lack of empathy. Number seven, chronic envy or jealousy. Eight, arrogant or haughty behavior. Nine, believing they are special. Oh, that's an interesting one. Let me elaborate. Falsely believing they are unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other high status people. Number 10, manipulation or gaslighting. So to elaborate, using controlling behaviors such as twisting facts to make others doubt their own reality to maintain power in relationships. How many of those 10 apply to
I
your
would say
father?
out of the 10, he has 8 of those.
So you need five to have narcissistic
See?
personality disorder.
Yeah,
You need
he has
five.
8 of those for sure. Yeah.
And then maybe the other two, you're not sure.
Right, exactly. Maybe I just haven't seen that side of him because he does know how to switch on and off depending on the person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it sounds to me like you're extremely introspective and
Yeah.
also you're really good at being honest with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when I hear you talk, I hear a person who's really good at looking in the mirror and going, "Okay, you did X, Y, and Z wrong. You need to change X, Y, and Z."
Yeah, 100%. I use that like I use the word so lightly, but everything for me is like accountability. But it's so true. You can't better yourself if you're not real with yourself. You can't, you know. Um, we go around in a circle. We do a rat race because we don't want to sit with ourselves and fix it. And then we're asking, well, why am I in this situation? Or why does this continue to happen? Or why, if something doesn't make you happy, that's what we're here for. That's what, God gave us air in our lungs for. It's to be happy. It's to be grateful. It's to be fulfilled. That doesn't mean you have to do the biggest, most grandiose thing, but like it could be simple, but it's about fulfillment. It's about happiness.
Do you have resentment towards your father?
Not anymore. For a long time I did. When I started to forgive myself and my own shame, and also stop carrying the dead weight that really wasn't personal. It wasn't, I took so many things personal. It had nothing to do with me. I think it was easier to forgive both of my parents because I had hurt from my mother too. I mean, we have a wonderful relationship now. But there were questions and there were hurt, right? Because at the end of the day, how could you stay, right? Like, this man is abusive. It doesn't matter what you think you want, what fantasy you want. How do you stay with someone that abuses your child? So I've learned to forgive both, it's funny because I was having this conversation 2 days ago with my mom, where I said I'm also very blessed and very lucky that I have a mother that is also very real, and she knows what she's capable of, and she knows what she's not. And I'll get to why I say that. And also, my dad, at some point, he did ask for forgiveness.
Hmm.
He did. Yeah. Once I got to a point of, I don't know if it was genuine or if it was just because he saw the level of like growth that I had, gotten to, and success. He apologized. And I think that for me was kind of like, I get it. I forgive you. I don't forget. I don't hold resentment. It is what it is. I just know how to manage you now, you know? But even with my mother, like my mother, she had me at a very young age. She really took on a lot of responsibility even before having me. She raised her siblings. She grew up very rough herself. So with mom, she didn't get to be a girl. She didn't get to be a teen. She didn't get to be a girl. And I think that she hit a point in her life where she wanted to. And I remember there was a conversation. My mom was living abroad for a little while, and I went to go visit her, and there were things going on that I just wasn't happy with, and so she felt like I there was always something going on that I wasn't happy with, and we had a conversation. My mom is very real, and I'm so grateful for this. But she sat me down and she goes, "Nothing I do is good enough. I
Mm.
made my mistakes. I made decisions that, yes, they affected you, and I understand that, and I'm sorry. But I also have my life to live, and I'm still learning. And there were a lot of things I did not get to experience. And I understand that there's things that you want me to change, or there's things about me that you don't like. Um, but I'm not ready, and I don't want to change them." I'm like, "How dare you? I'm your," and I didn't come from a place of you should want to. I came from a place of I'm your daughter. How could you not want to change for your daughter? Like this is crazy. She goes to me, um, the things I would have to face and think of to begin that change are just too much for me to carry.
Oh wow. That what do you think about that response?
It was at the moment, I'm going to be raw. At the moment, I thought, oh, how weak, how
That's
pitiful,
exactly what I thought.
how weak. Yeah, it was. And in a way, yes, I know that she has gone through a lot. But at the same time, um, everyone knows what they're capable of, you know? And she said something after that. She said to me, "The things that you don't like about me as my daughter, make sure you work as hard as you can to not become the things that I am that you don't like."
Wow.
And she even said, and she finished it by saying, "Who you want to be and who you are has nothing to do with me. Yes, we went through what we went through, and our past was our past, but the truth is, if you want to be big, if you want to be great, if you want to heal, if whatever it is that you want to do, that's up to you now. It's not my journey. You're responsible for your journey. Pointing the finger at me constantly to change does not change who you become. Become who you want to become because you want to." And it took me a year and a half. I left the visit livid. I was like, "I can't believe it. She's so selfish. Here we go again. It's all about her, you know?" And I'm constantly fighting. I'm constantly protecting her because as a little girl, I would always protect her, you know?
Hmm.
And I'm constantly this, and I can't believe it. And she doesn't see me, and she doesn't hear me, and she doesn't care, and she doesn't want to be a mom, and why? And I had all of this anger. And I remember one night, this is where the spirituality comes in. I was sitting, it was 2 in the morning. I'm questioning my business. I'm like, did I make the right move? Is this really for me? I'm up. And I felt, this is like a testament. I felt a spirit. I felt something, and it was like in my heart. And it was like, you're not going to get to where you're going to go if you don't forgive.
Mm.
You're not going to learn. You're not
Bro.
going to be patient with yourself or grow or even understand your own insecurities if you don't forgive. And I remember sending her, it was like a huge text message because it was 2 in the morning, so I didn't want to call her. um, Putting everything behind me, forgiving, loving her, accepting her. And it's been the biggest burden that I've lifted, honestly.
You
Yeah.
sound like a very, very emotionally mature person to me.
Thank
I mean,
you.
here's the thing. So first of all, you absolutely had the right to have resentment towards both of your parents, because she
Yeah.
also honestly sounds like a narcissist too. And you
I
had the
told you they were both. Yeah.
yeah, and
I
you
told
had
you.
the right to be resentful towards them. And I would say that you had to go through that resentment to get to where you are today,
Yeah. Yeah.
emotionally, to reach the point of forgiveness, because it's like you have to process those feelings. And that anger, what you learn about anger is it goes somewhere, whether if it doesn't go to the abuser, then it ends up going to yourself.
Yep.
And yeah, I would love to talk about that. Like, basically the question is how much blame do you put on yourself?
For a long time, I put all of the blame on myself. Um, and then I sabotaged wonderful friendships and relationships.
Hmm.
That was how I hurt myself. Um, I, like I said, I kind of came off narcissistic myself. But for a long time, I took the blame. I took the blame. I felt like, well, maybe if they wouldn't have had me so young, or maybe if I didn't come in the picture, or maybe if, maybe this, maybe that. I took a lot of the blame, but I also, they gave me a lot of the blame, you know? Um, I think that it stopped 2 years ago. It was after the conversation that I had with my mom that I texted her forgiving her, that I stopped taking the blame, you know? And don't get me wrong, it was tough in the beginning for our relationship. She couldn't accept it either, right? Because it was always us. It was always we. It was, we went through this. Your dad did this to us,
Hmm.
and once we had that conversation, I heard her, right? Like, yes, I get it. You're weak and this and that, but I hear you. Like, I
Uh-huh.
hear you. At the end of the day, you're going to be what you want to be, regardless of what it does, of who it hurts, of what you become of it, right? You're going to live your life to your capacity, and you don't feel anything about it. You're okay with that. And so I need to understand that the situations that we were also in, you put yourself there. I didn't put you there. Would Whether you would have had me or not, you fell in love with a man and you stayed. That had nothing to do with me, right? And she's had several relationships after that that also were not, the healthiest. So 2 years ago was when I finally said, I don't want to feel this, and this is not my problem. That's nothing to do. I have my own problems. I have my own
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. But like I said, I was very lucky because they were honest when I dished it. Obviously I'm very like, I will tell you how I feel. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I will tell you how I feel. And that's just how I am. And so I would bring things up to them, but I was grateful that they also were very open to have the conversations. Obviously no growth came from it on their end, but for me it did.
I'm curious what that text message was like. Like,
Oh
what
my
did it
God. I
say?
wish I still had it because it got deleted. She does like this thing where the messages delete after a while. But I don't remember off of the top of my head. I know I was doing a lot of crying while writing it,
Hmm.
because
At
I
2
felt
a.m.
so many emotions. I was proud of myself. I was happy. Um, for the first time, I felt like a woman, not like
Mm.
a little girl.
Mm.
I felt like I was stepping into my womanhood, into my path, into,
Mm.
like you said, I broke the curse. Like, my kids will never go through what I've gone through, right? Like, I'm working on myself. And I was also real enough to know, even if it hurt, you're my mother and I want you a part of my life, you know? I know that there's people that can do no contact. Good for them, right? But that's not who I am. I know that I do love my mother and I love my father too, and I've just learned how to balance it in what works for me. If I know that my dad's a little bit too much, maybe when he's partying or whatever, I know to stay away in those moments, right? We'll go
Yep.
for a jog in the morning. I know
Mm.
when to see you, when to talk to you, when not to. My mom, same thing. So I've learned my own balance instead of trying to change them to fit
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Changing someone else is a very, very like I wouldn't even suggest it because it's just
It never works.
it never works. It never
No.
works. It's very, it takes, and actually, while we're on that topic, I feel like compassion is actually probably
Yes.
the most effective tool that we have.
Yeah.
Like when dealing with a narcissist, it's so funny because, if you asked me when I was 21, 22, 23, he would have said like be aggressive towards them and like return their energy. And what I learned over the years is that compassion is actually like the greatest tool when it comes to helping someone change or like helping someone see the light. You know what I mean?
Yep. 100%. I love that you said that because my mother and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, they've had a lot of their own traumas and fictions. I mean, this, you don't change, it continues.
Hmm.
And so my mom has a lot of hurt and trauma from that as well. And she said something to me. She goes, the type of daughter that you are allows me to forgive myself, but also forgive my mom. Like, you're so understanding and so compassionate with me that now I look at my mom and I can kind of understand her too. You
What
know,
was
even
her
if
mom
I
like?
my grandmother, I mean, she was reckless. She was a reckless. She was a party girl. She partied a lot.
Wild.
Wild. There was a lot of drinking, alcoholism. She was also very abusive physically and verbally to my mother and my aunt and uncle. Um, my mother started, taking care of her siblings at 9, 8 years
Wow.
old.
Hmm.
Yeah. So my grandmother was wild for a long time. Even, I mean, I think even now she still like drinks and gets out of hand a little bit. She lives now in Ecuador,
Okay.
so she's not so close. I mean, we do speak. Now she's almost 70. She's 68. And now I see her like she's sitting
That's
back
a
and
pretty young grandma.
she because she had my mother young too. Yeah.
Wow.
And she's 68, and so now I see it, like she'll reach out and it's more peaceful, and like she's asking for forgiveness, and
Mm.
you know um and I treat her the same way. But in the beginning, my mom, it was tough for her. She's like, I don't want to forgive you. Screw you. You did so many things to me. But seeing how mine and her relationship has grown so much, and we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes. Our parents don't have a manual. I mean, yeah, there's ethics, right? There's morals. There's a way that you want to raise your children, but the truth is you can do your best and there might still be something, you know? And I also take it like, would I be the woman I am today if I didn't experience those things? Probably not.
Nope.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
I'm noticing in your family there's a lot of like pride swallowing, like a
Oh,
lot of
yes.
like I'm sorry, and I'm this is it's a really beautiful thing to see because you said that your dad apologized, you said your mom apologized, you said your grandma apologized, and you apologized. So I'm noticing a lot of like pride swallowing and a lot of apologies, which is a beautiful thing, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to what you said. It's such a key point. It's They know that they're able to because there's compassion.
Mm,
If they thought I would respond from a place of pride
yeah,
and anger and
yeah,
resentment, I probably wouldn't get those apologies
yeah,
because they would
yeah,
be responding in that way,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
would be waiting for that.
Yeah.
I think them understanding that, we hug it out. It's okay. I won't let you do it again, but we're good. Water under the bridge. I've learned to balance and control. Oh, I can only control what I do, and that's why I think it's easy for them now to apologize. And I think everyone kind of hits that wall in their life where they're like, oh, I made so many mistakes. What did I do?
Yeah, forgiveness is a really, really beautiful point in life. It really brings a lot of peace. Now, here's where like some people would disagree. A lot of people would disagree with me, but like I'm at the point now where if someone is angry at someone for maybe abusing them in any sort of way, like the old me would have like really, really pushed forgiveness and said you should forgive them, you should be peaceful. The me now, it's like you have the right to be mad, and if you want to forgive them, that's great, and if you want to stay mad, that you have that right too. I'm
Right.
actually I think that it is true that forgiveness brings peace, but like some people just aren't ready to forgive, and I think that it's the sort of thing where you should do it when you're ready. Like I don't believe in forcing forgiveness. I think it's a beautiful place, but like I don't believe in forcing it, or like let's just say for example, your mom said that she's still mad at her mom, or even you were still mad at your parents.
Right.
I would be more like, you have the right to be mad and you
Yeah.
can forgive when you're ready, but I don't push it as much as I used to.
Yeah. Yeah. And that part of being ready is so important.
Hmm.
If you forgive too soon and you don't know your own triggers,
Hmm.
you're kind of back to square one. Was it really forgiveness? Or are you forcing yourself to do something that you think is right in the moment
Hmm.
to save a relationship that you still don't understand yet? I mean, our parents are always going to be our parents. Obviously, anyone else outside of that, I mean, you learn how to manage, right? You can kind of, control what you want in your life and what you don't. But I think that being ready, knowing yourself, knowing your triggers is what's really going to allow you to really forgive. So yeah, I mean, you can't force that. That's something that just has to happen naturally, and I think some people just never get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the difference between me now and me before is like I think a lot more in terms like you have the right to be mad. Like before, let's say like the 25-year-old me, he was very
Yeah.
very like, you know, do everything to minimize suffering and like resentment is like bad and like I don't know. I'm just a lot more like you have the right to be mad, and forgiveness is
Of
great.
course.
You're at peace. You sleep better at night. But like, if someone is angry, I'm a lot more like, yeah, like you have the
Yeah.
right to be. You understand? You know what I mean?
Yeah, process it the way you need to understand what it is that you're feeling and why you feel that way. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally understand, because we do have a right to be mad. We do have a
Yeah.
right to feel away or sad or whatever. And I think that we're taught that, if especially in a parent child dynamic, we're taught that the parent is right and you can't feel anything and you don't understand because you're the child, and so it's what they say. And that's not the case. I'm
Yeah.
human and I'm an individual and I have feelings too, and I have my own feelings, and we're
Hmm.
all different. So yeah, I think that that's super important, is to feel what you want to feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're doing a lot better. Is there anything that nowadays you're working on as far as like yourself? What are you working on nowadays?
Relationships.
Mm.
Yeah. Actually cultivating, watering them, keeping them. For so long, I pushed healthy and good relationships away, because I didn't feel deserving of it.
Mm.
And I sabotaged a lot.
Mm.
And I also I kept the bad seeds around because that's
Mm.
what I was comfortable with, or what I knew, or what I grew up around. um but I think that right now I'm in a space where I understand how important, but also how beautiful it is to have community. I never came from community, so I never understood. I had people, I had parents, but it wasn't a real community. So I think that's my biggest like focus outside of work, outside of everything. I think that's first. It's like I really want to cultivate those friendships, those relationships, and keep them.
Do you have trust issues?
I do. I'd be lying to say I don't. I do. I do. I
Well,
do.
it's funny because I'm actually a very strong believer in trusting people slowly. Like
Okay.
I don't know, like some people I've been told by one or two people that I have trust issues, and to me it's like we live in such a messed up world. Like, is trusting people slowly really like a bad thing?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think, like we said, you know yourself, and you know how to balance yourself. But I think that there is a point where the trusting slowly is good, but I think that there's a point where then it also can become
Of course.
self-sabotage,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you don't even give the person the chance, right? Because
Yeah.
something reminds you of your past, and
Mm.
automatically you're judging them for that, or placing them somewhere. And so yeah, I do. And that a lot of that comes from betrayal from my own family. So if my own family could do this to me, I mean, why wouldn't
Yeah.
a stranger?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the case. If I'm telling people I'm a good person and I'm not going to betray you, and I want you to believe me, then why can't I believe you, right? Like,
Yeah.
what, right? Like, what makes me so different? Why am I so entitled to all this grace and I can't give it? And so I'm starting to learn that that's something that I want to work on. But even outside of not trusting, really taking the time. I've noticed that I don't really take the time to show that I care or show that I
Mm.
appreciate, you
Mm.
know. I've, like
Mm.
I said before, I've always done it in ways of, I'll take you to dinner, I'll do, but sometimes people just want to talk. People just want you to ask them if they're okay. And
That's a
I
big one.
that's a huge
That's a
one.
big one.
And I always found myself so worried about myself that I've never taken the time to do that. And so now I try. Like a few weeks ago, it was a little late. I had finished working. I texted my best friend and I'm like, I'm so proud of you. Like, I love you. And if you need me, I'm here. Like, I hope you're okay. We talk every day.
Hmm.
But, and he responded back, and we do that often. But like, I try to do that now. I try to water because I want to be watered, you know? But I want to be watered in a healthy way, and I want to give that back.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad that you brought that up. You know, sometimes just like one text, even one sentence of like, hey, just checking in on you, how are you? Like, that is a big deal to people. People are very, very lonely nowadays. People are,
yeah,
we're all traumatized. And I think one thing I love, even, a lot of people say the world is going to shit. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. But one thing
yeah,
that I love about 2026 is that I feel like we're way more psychologically intelligent and psychologically aware than ever before. Even when I was a kid, 10, 11, 12, we didn't talk about these things. Therapy was only for crazy people. We didn't talk about NPD and
yeah,
BPD and bipolar, and we didn't know as much. So, I think that one thing I love about this world is we're way more open. We're really talking about these mental illnesses and insecurities and ego and trust, and we're talking about
yeah.
these things a lot more. So yeah, I kind of ran out of questions. Is there anything else you want to say or add before we wrap it up?
No, I'm so grateful. This was amazing. I appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you do come up with more questions, call me.
Thank you
This
for
is good.
opening up. No, we're gonna have a
Yeah,
part two in a few months. We're gonna have a part two. We're
yeah,
gonna catch
let's
up.
do it. This is so good. And I think
Yeah.
that we you should share this more with so many people. Yeah, this
Definitely.
is
Yeah,
great.
I have a few more coming up this week.
Yeah,
So definitely stay tuned. But yeah,
awesome.
we're gonna in a few months I'm gonna hit you up, and we're gonna give you time to see, like what you how you've been and like how
Yeah,
you've grown. So I'm gonna hit you up in a few months for
awesome.
part two for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, Kathy. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.